Today's lesson, we're going to learn about arguments. For any debate course, while we understand that there are two sides to every debate, what is that we even talk about? So we understand conceptually that there are two opinions who don't agree on something. But what is it that they say? What is the content that we talk about that are the principles used by both sides as they debate with each other? And that's going to be the focus of what we're going to be learning today in today's class on arguments. So today's class is an intro to argumentation. I call this SEEC and you shall find. Some of you may be familiar with the SEEC formula, but we're going to be learning it today together. So an argument is the basic building block for persuasive speech. And it's interesting because the word argument and the word argue take up an interesting place in our minds, that the word argument is usually not seen as something constructive. Ofer, I'm going to have you read the next slide. And we'll see what type of association the word argument has for us. Ofer, please read.
Okay, what is an argument? What do people mean when they say argument? Isn't an argument verbal fighting? Why is the argument important?
Okay, very nice. So when we hear the word argument, what do people say? Isn't it verbal fighting? I'm going to argue with you. It inherently brings up feelings of disagreement. And when we teach the term argument to students, that's usually what they knew. It's like it's one of the first words that we learn in the English language. And it doesn't come from a constructive place. We don't see argument as building a statement followed by explanations in a structured manner. We may know that this is what it means, but that doesn't mean that that's the association we have, because it means both. Okay. So moving on, there's also the aspect of not arguing when we think we argue. Orit, I'm going to have you read the next slide, please. Right, Orit, take it away.
Yes. If you can't win the argument, correct their spelling.
Very nice. Keep going.
And if you can't do that, insult their typography.
Beautiful. Okay. So have you ever seen this sentence or a version of it?
No.
Whoever has, raise your hands. Who's used this in class at some point? All right. Very cool. So we're familiar with how sometimes, let's say a student brings up a good argument on why we should, exercise every morning, and someone else will say, well, you can't exercise every morning. You wake up in the afternoon. That doesn't mean their idea is wrong. It just, switches to a personal attack or an ad hominem, which is a type of fallacy. We're not going to be covering fallacies in this debate course, but in, debate 2, it's something that I like to touch on. And it's something very useful for students sometimes, just sort of a, side note. If you do teach a fallacy, an incorrect way of arguing, you could have a lesson where avoiding a specific type of fallacy can be the drill. And that sometimes will drive participants to a much more constructive, essay by avoiding the negatives than trying to create the positive. It's a cool game to play. Just if this taps into something, it's something to keep in mind. Okay, so bringing it back to here, much of the time, the arguing isn't even about arguing. It's about, your idea is great, but I'm going to insult your spelling, or you use the wrong font. It's not the friendliest font possible. And what I'd like us to do here is understand that the core is actually about winning the argument, about giving something which is sound, well-constructed, and able to be addressed and presented and responded to in that kind of a way. All right, Avital, can you please read to us what is an argument?
Okay, what is an argument? A reason or a set of reasons given with the aim of persuading others that an action or idea is right or wrong. A reason / justification or explanation. An argument explains something.
Thank you very much. So what an argument is for our purposes and for students that we're teaching debate to is a reason or a set of reasons given with the aim of persuading others that an action or idea is right or wrong. Okay, it's a reason for why something is correct or incorrect. It's a justification. It explains something. Now, this is already a very important distinction from when students will give a very descriptive piece of information that doesn't convey if something is right or wrong or good or bad. And I want to give an example of this before we go into the argument, because there's a lot of room for games and for constructive activities that help us zero in on if an idea is right or wrong. Now, giving an example of an opinion with our associations, if I say chair, different chairs come to mind. Let's try this for a second. Okay, so I'm just saying chair. Everyone imagine to yourselves the type of chair that comes to mind. All right, and I'm going to ask, let's see. So Giada, can you please describe to us the chair that comes in mind when we talk about chairs?
Excuse me, but we have prayer now, so it's hard.
If you have to go, that's fine. And
I'm here.
Come back.
I cannot talk because we have prayer.
Okay, I said Giada, not Diana.
Dada. Yeah.
Giada. Okay, yeah.
Okay. Can you go again? Reading?
I said, can you right now give us an example of when I say imagine a chair, what does this chair look like?
White, tall, strong, comfortable.
No, give me exactly what the chair looks like. Not the how it makes you feel like. Describe to me. I was saying, everyone imagine a chair. Could be the chair in your office, can be a different chair.
Yeah, it has a white seat and 4 legs. And
what's it made out of?
It's made of plastic and metal. And well, that's basically it. Bright white plastic.
Okay, just plastic and metal.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. All right, who else has a chair that they would like to describe?
I would
Ofer. Let's say so. Ofer, and then who else?
Me.
Yasmin. Okay, so Ofer, first you. And
Okay.
Then Yasmin, tell us about a chair. Try to be as descriptive in detail as possible.
Okay, so I'm actually sitting on a special chair which is made out of wood, but it's not conventional. It doesn't have 4 legs. It's kind of bent, and its purpose is to keep your back straight and take off the stress from your lower back. So it's actually made of a bent piece of wood, like kind of a letter C that's lying down, and it has sorry.
No, so someone was on.
Okay.
On mute. Okay.
Right. So and there's the part where you sit on, which is like a normal chair. It's like a cushion, and there's a special place for your knees to press on or press against, and this eliminates the stress on your back. So it's a special chair. It's still made out of wood, but it doesn't have 4 legs. It's like a lying down letter C.
Got it. That's actually really amazing that you describe this type of a chair, and that it really uses our imaginations to think of what it looks like. It's made of wood. It's like a letter C. It's lying down. There's a cushion for your seat, but your knees are bent to keep your back straight.
Do you want me to show it to you?
If you can get an image of the chair ready. Yes, not yet. I want to hear about one more chair.
Okay.
And then we'll see it. Saying it's okay. So who else had a chair? Yasmin, you said you.
Yes. I thought about giving an explanation or a definition of a chair in general. Is it okay?
No, it's got to be a specific chair.
Okay. So
The one you're sitting on right now.
What?
The one you're sitting on right now.
Okay. So my chair is a device that aims to be to allow me to feel comfortable whenever.
No, you're describing the attributes of the chair. I'm saying describe
Okay.
the chair. If I, for example, Okay, yeah.
Okay, so my chair is a chair that is built like every other chair with 4 legs, and but it has also it's made of it's covered with cloth, with blue cloth. It has wonderful how would I say? It has a place for my arms to put my arms on.
Very good.
And the back is very wide and I don't know, stable.
Mm-hmm.
The legs there are also wheels, 5 wheels beneath it that allow me to sit comfortably and swing if I want to. That's
Wonderful. Okay, good. So we have some ideas here. There's 4 legs. Somehow there's 5 wheels. It's covered with blue cloth. It has armrests. It's got a wide back. That's your chair, correct?
Yes.
Great. All right, Ofer, please show us your chair. A picture of the chair that you.
Okay, let's see. I hope you get this. Can you? Oh wait, hold on.
Well, I meant you should find it on Google, a picture, but I guess we can see the actual chair. Oh, wow. That looks like a pretty schmancy device.
Yeah.
Look at Ofer's chair. Well, very cool. Okay, everyone got a look? Okay, that's thank you. This like I've done this drill a number of times. I've never had an ergonomic like back straightening chair held up to the camera. So
I just want to add one thing that I've had this thing for like I think 30 years, and I had all sorts of back problems, and it solved many of them. So
That's nice.
That's
If it's 30 years, then I don't know if it's really solved your problems,
ooh.
isn't it?
I keep on
Ofer,
sitting
do
on
you
it.
have a response?
If it works, why change it?
All right, excellent. This is definitely things we can keep in mind. So looking at the imagining of a chair, when we describe the chair, and usually the chair we're sitting on is sufficient. And it's interesting how much we mix different aspects, exactly. Like we mix
physical attributes to emotional attributes in a way, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that what it doesn't do though is it doesn't convey the type of moral context that we require in an argument. So the reason that we did this right now was to see, first of all, how when I said describe a chair, for some of us it was more challenging simply because we're not used to cleanly describing things. The additional attributes are a part of it. Like it's a chair like every other chair, it's a comfortable chair. It's or it's the, but if we're describing it in, exact details, if I describe the chair that I'm sitting on, I would say there's 5 black wheels. The seat of the chair is roughly, I'd say a little more than a half meter off the ground. The base is made out of plastic, followed by a metal tube, which is able to support my weight, and the chair can go higher or lower. The back is made of 3 parts of plastic for lower back, mid back, and headrest, which you can see behind me. There are 2 arm supports made out of plastic, which can change their height. And the chair overall has space for me to, lean back, but also support in the middle of my back. So this is the specifics of my chair. Now, when you ask students to bring arguments, you're sometimes going to get things that are very descriptive. For example, a big juicy hamburger with lettuce and tomatoes fresh off the grill. But whether it's a chair or a juicy hamburger, what it isn't is it's not an argument, because it doesn't tell you what to do about the information. So once we say that an argument needs to describe something, we can see how sometimes describing facts or describing, the attributes of something still doesn't give an opinion. So it's important to distinguish that facts and descriptions don't convey the context. And it will show you how this works. If I take Ofer's chair, for example, and I say there's a wooden chair, sort of like a strange letter C, with a cushion and a knee holder, I can then say, is good for your back, causes back pain, makes your knees feel very tightly bunched up, is an improvement on any chair he's ever had. All of those give the moral context, tell us good, bad, what to think. This juicy burger with lettuce and tomatoes and mayo and onions that just came off the grill is tasty, is fattening, is not allowed on Passover. And these are parts that we sometimes feel, because of the amount of description we give, has actually conveyed some opinion on something, when in the reality is that it hasn't done that. I had one student who gave a description of an internship at a DJ booth when asked for the argument. And I have it saved somewhere. It was something along the lines of an internship that starts in the morning, where you arrange music files and you bring them to the DJ and then you bring them back, and you repeat this shift over 8 hours until the shift ends. Is there any moral context there? Do we see the elements of an argument? The answer is no. Exactly. We don't know if this is right or wrong. We don't know if this internship was good or bad. This internship has wasted my time or taught me life-changing skills, would already bring the moral context. But this description, which was probably like 90 words, didn't do that. So when we get into the realm of arguments, first of all, we can see that descriptions and moral context can become mixed with descriptive information. For our chairs, it was hard for us to talk about and separate our experiences and the associations with the actual description. But when we get to the description, we can find there can be a lot of words without the right or wrong. So to learn to separate these and to understand these different parts is important before we get into argumentation. All right. So clear so far, we can see why facts and descriptions, while there are many words, can be separate from our argument. We got this so far? Awesome. All right. So now that we know what is not a part of an argument, let's move on to what an argument is. And that is where we have SEEC. And there are different versions of the same formula that you can find in Hebrew for those of you who are going to be teaching debate in Hebrew, but the base and the core is the same. So how to make an argument itself is S plus E, statement plus explanation. That's sufficient. Say something and then explain why it is correct. So why the other letters? Because we're looking how to create a strong argument, not just an argument. Though with your students, you can create arguments and then move to strong arguments. I usually introduce this in one go, and then we can sort of step backwards and work on specific elements. But you know your students, so you can adapt it accordingly. SEEC is statement, explanation, example, conclusion. Who has seen this or something like this before? Okay, a few of us. Yeah, debate does cross our path. All right, so let's take a look quickly at these four elements.
It's familiar from diplomacy, from the SEET essay, persuasive essay.
Excellent.
And also from writing.
Yeah.
Even in the board exam, when you teach them how to write, those are the elements. I mean, yeah.
Excellent. Yes, this is a part of essay writing. This is a part of debate courses. As we see, we are learning a debate course. And it also is present in other places, which is, I would say, for example, for those who have worked with students on the structure of essays, sometimes the paragraphs within the essays also contain some of these elements, or a statement that is, the idea being supported throughout the entire case. So you can find these in different places, you can apply them in different places, but what's important is when boiled down to the core elements, this is the heart of a strong argument. This is something which was organized and coined by Aristotle the famous Greek philosopher, and is carried forward today, and making order out of the chaos that is our sometimes our natural associative way of thinking. So let's see how this works. Let's start with Lisa. Lisa, if you can read us what is a statement?
1 minute. I can't see the whole thing. I have to maybe change my viewing option.
All right, we'll have someone else read this one and you'll do the next one. Avital, please read. Statement.
Yeah, hang on there. Everybody's picture is covering it. All right, statement. How do you make an argument? Statement is a definite, clear position on a subject in speech or writing. The position needs to give a positive or a negative context.
Beautiful. Wait, there's going to be a bit more reading. I just want to clear. So it's a definite, clear position on a subject in speech or in writing. In our course, we're going to be using statements in speech, but it's just as clear in writing. And just like we talked about, it needs to give a positive or a negative context. It's not descriptive. By the end, I need to know good or bad, right or wrong. What do I do with the information? And that can be conveyed in 4 words. Don't sit over there. What is the word which is giving me the positive or negative context?
Don't.
Don't. Beautiful. Don't. We know what to do with the don't. I can give a 60-word description of a bench. That doesn't tell me if it's comfortable or not. It doesn't know if to sit or not. All right. Let's have a look at some context. Avital, please keep reading.
Okay. Context. This burger is delicious. Plastic pollution in the ocean is harmful. Fish suffocate in plastic bags. And this bus will get us home faster.
Very good. So we see here that each one of these options has a word that gives some form of context. So let's take right now 30 seconds. I'd like everyone not to say, but please write the words that you feel are the moral context word, the word that tells us good, bad, right or wrong. All right, so everyone, let's take 30 seconds now. Please write the word that you feel in each line. There's 4 of them. Pick the word you feel is the moral context, write them down, and we'll go over them in 30 seconds. Okay, wonderful. So let's go through it together in no particular order. If people just, you can open your mics and yell at the answer. Okay, the first line, what is our context word?
Delicious.
Delicious.
Delicious, beautiful. Delicious is a word that shows us what, good or bad?
Good, obviously.
Delicious. It's a great, you have to eat this cheesecake. It is delicious.
What about this?
What am I?
What about this? When you say this burger, we all know delicious is good. I mean, we want it. But when you say this burger is, I don't know, it's something that indicates that it had me. I don't know what to say.
All right, that's an interesting idea with the word this.
Delicious is clearly the word, but the use of this is also something that, I don't know, that brightens up, brings something. I don't know.
Well, the word, it would need to be
It's a
specific.
noun. I mean, I think it says something, no? I mean, if it's right or wrong, and you want something that describe if it's right or wrong, then I don't think the burger can be.
No, it doesn't say the burger. It says this burger. I mean,
this
burger or this bus. We all know that delicious, obviously, and harmful and suffocate and faster. Yes, but when you use this, I'm asking, does it give more? I don't know how to say it, but does it give any?
Does it add to the?
Yeah, does it add value, or I don't know when you say this?
Okay, excellent. So I think I understand the question of like, she's asking, does the word this add value? And I would say it definitely does in this case, in that it makes something more specific. If I say burgers are delicious, given the amount of burgers in restaurants, like, has anyone here ever had a bad hamburger? Raise your hands if you've had a bad hamburger. Okay, Simon, what's your favorite food? You're on mute. Maybe he doesn't want to tell us his favorite food.
Spacebar is supposed to get me off mute, but it's not working.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Simon, what's your favorite food? You're on mute again.
Meatballs.
Meatballs, okay. Have you ever had bad meatballs?
Nah.
Nah. Okay. Well, lucky you. I think some of us have.
That's why it's my favorite food.
Okay. Listen, there are some people who, you know, feel even cold pizza is bad pizza. I've had bad pizza. I've had bad burgers. If someone says all burgers are delicious, their statement is called into question, because it takes away from like the one exception, which then would topple the whole theory. This is already getting into other aspects of logic that I don't want to get into right now. But a word like this, saying this specific burger is delicious,
it's an argument about specific burger.
Exactly. It's about a specific item, like McDonald's burgers are delicious. That array is much more believable than all burgers are delicious. Okay, so yeah, the word this is very important. Burgers are delicious would make it less believable to us on an internal level, because it's now trying to generalize beyond, you know, it's like all Italians are great cooks. You know, we need to find one that doesn't work, and then already we're in a different place. Okay, great. So I see some people already wrote the answers in the text. Let's just go through them quickly. What is our moral context word in sentence number 2?
Harmful.
Delicious, harmful, and then suffocate.
By the way, beautiful. Like so you caught it there. For those who saw pollution and harmful, both are negative contexts. Like either one of them. Okay, number 3. What is the word?
Suffocate.
Suffocate. Excellent. What is 4?
Faster.
Okay.
Daniel, the word suffocate is like it's just like a fact. No, it's not like a loaded term with good or bad. Like if I don't like fish, then.
But how do you suffocate in a positive way, though? Like,
I mean, if you like your fish dead, like I do, then it's no problem. I'm saying it doesn't contain an evaluation. I don't think it's just a fact.
Okay, so with this, by the way, so Simon makes a fair point. Who said if you want your fish alive, then it's a positive word? Who was that?
I think I said you can't suffocate in a positive way.
Exactly.
Like
very good.
It's a verb that's inherently negative.
It is negative connotation.
Right. So exactly. So Larissa and Avital hit it on the head. And by the way, for the last two, and in many ways, depending on how different your view of reality is, yes, maybe Simon specifically appreciates a type of fish that is, you know, suffocated and that makes it taste better. It's a possibility, you know, like that poisonous fugu fish is dangerous. You know, in Japan, fugu is a delicacy and there's chefs who remove the poison glands. It's supposed to be very tasty. So yeah, there are exceptions. And that is why I would say in general, the context of these sentences is so important, because we generally, and I think that's like, it's important to clarify on a technical level, although we do understand and we have feelings associated with what we read. Fish suffocating is generally not a good thing, you know, unless we intend to eat them, and then they're usually not going to be suffocated. There may be specific cases where that is, you know, considered a delicacy, or maybe some people like having dead fish in their tank, and then this would be an exception to them. But to most people, at least in our society, and by the way, actually just sort of like a open commentary box. For me, when I was in the competitive debating circuit, we were aware, both as participants and later as judges, that people would come from different countries of the world with different biases that may be very different to what we're used to in, you know, weird societies, which is like Western, educated, industrial, rich democracies. So there are people who will see things differently. And I've debated with people from different countries who did not see democracy as an inherently valuable thing all the time. Or if someone is, vegan, then debates about the health benefits of meat may be different. So there will be people coming from different backgrounds, but I would say it's more relevant on the international stage. I believe for most of you as educators, your classes are fairly homogeneous. I mean, yes, people may have slightly different backgrounds, do different after-school classes, but comparatively to other groups within the country, and especially internationally, the students are usually from a relatively similar background, or at least with a certain level of similarity at their base.
But there is one, excuse me, Daniel, there's one thing that you're ignoring here, which is the fact that some kids have a lack of general knowledge in a way, so things that seem obvious to some of us, especially teachers, are not that obvious to them. And this is something that you have to work on with, just like when you're writing a composition, many of the things that they don't know things as facts, things that we know,
Definitely. I think that's a very good point Yasmin brings, which is that students may have differing levels of general knowledge. And for that, I would say, first of all, that is true, especially, Yasmin, what ages do you teach?
From the 7th grade to the 12th grade, but still, even my 12th graders, I have students who lack general basic things, even smart kids, they don't read that much and knowledgeable things that seems like obvious to us, basic things, they don't read.
Does anyone else share this? Do you feel your students could have more general knowledge? Not everyone encounters this, by the way. I think I'm
not sure.
No, it definitely, look, for this, by the way, I'd say starting a debate club or a Model UN society are perfect ways to get your classes much more informed. Actually, there are two teachers here who have a Model UN club that we coach, who I think could tell us about it maybe next class, of how their students' general knowledge improved with having, such a society. But I will say that knowledge and general knowledge through activities like debate and Model UN and other speech activities will improve, but these things can be taught. It's usually a unique kid who likes history or may decide they want to learn about rhetoric who will have more knowledge, but on average, most students will not have such a broad base of general knowledge at this point, but that's something that can be learned. What I'm talking about more is the association of, let's say, elections and democracies. Is that a positive thing? These type of things where the students will all have the same background, so we can make the same association that plastic pollution is indeed harmful. Instead of our country is working to make itself more industrial, we currently feel that the world is limiting our industrial capacity with environmental laws that really aren't relevant over here. And recycling isn't important, and there are places in the world where that is the type of reality. There are videos that I've shown on a debate on the Amazon rainforest where you see garbage trucks going to the river and dumping their garbage in, and that's like a norm. People watch this and maybe they don't care. So there's sometimes basic frame of reference that's very different. So sort of in the box, I'm just saying that it does sometimes agree. And I think that what Simon's comment, as humorous as it was, brings the point that sometimes, these things need to be case specific. The bus will get us home faster is usually a good thing, unless we're making a surprise party for our partner, and then a faster bus brings them home early, and then our 3 months of keeping it a secret went to waste. So yeah, there can be exceptions, but usually within our own associations, we have context to these things. Anyway, closing the box. Good identifying all the words. These words are necessary for an argument. Okay, let's look at some examples of arguments. We'll start with statement. Yasmin, please read us the statement examples.
Okay, a definite, clear expression of something in speech or writing. Australia is beautiful. Always fly American Airlines. No one should possess nuclear weapons.
Wonderful. Okay, so looking at these three sentences, tell me, Yasmin, what are the moral context words in these sentences?
Okay, beautiful is a positive. Oops.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Okay, then we have always.
Excellent. Very good. And
no one.
Beautiful. Okay.
No one
Great.
should. Something like
Exactly. So Australia is beautiful always, and no one should. Now, this is important because we could argue nuclear weapons keep peace in the world, which is, a positive. So this is something important to keep in mind. Okay. Let's move on to explanation. All right. Lisa, are you able to read? Can you see the screen? Okay. Lisa, tell us about explanations.
Okay, let's make it smaller, then I can see everything. Okay. Explanation. Explain the statement with the word because. Australia is beautiful because of the coral reef. Always fly American Airlines because they have the lowest prices. No one should possess nuclear weapons because if one goes off, the damage is unthinkable.
Excellent. Okay, so we see here that the explanations give a reason for why the statement is correct. And it's important to use the word because. The word because is very, very important. And I would say when you're teaching students debate, make the use of this word mandatory. Mandatory teaches us the statement is over, the explanation has begun. Okay? And we see here, Australia is beautiful because of the coral reef. It answers the question of why is this correct? Australia now could be beautiful because of the Sydney Opera House, but no, it's because of the coral reef. American Airlines should be flown because they have the lowest prices. No one should possess nuclear weapons because the damage is unthinkable. Okay? So we see here that this now makes the argument stronger. It's not just Australia is beautiful. To that, the other side could answer, no, it's not, But now, because of the coral reef, we have this type of explanation. Moving on to example. Okay, and this, let's have someone read here who didn't read yet. Sigalit, are you able to read? Okay, so we're going to have Sigalit.
I can read.
Who can read?
I'll read afterwards, no problem.
Yeah, so we'll have you read the next one. Okay? Sigalit, tell us about examples.
Who is going to read now?
You.
Oh, I thought the other one wanted. Okay, example. Give an example, warranty to prove it's true. Australia is beautiful because of the coral reef, which was voted by National Geographic as one of the best coral diving in the world. Always fly American Airlines because they have the lowest prices. Last month, they had a 50% off deal to every location. No one should possess nuclear weapons because if one goes off, the damage is unthinkable. After the Hiroshima bombing of 1945, along with the huge loss of life, thousands died in pain from dehydration, and the land was contaminated for decades.
Beautiful, very well read. Thank you. So, if the explanation explains, or I guess tells us why something is correct, the example tells us why it is true. It is no longer our opinion or our made-up opinion in this case, which tells us that something is accurate. I can say Australia is beautiful because of the coral reef, and that's my opinion. That doesn't make it real. And that's why for a strong argument, it's very important that we bring proof from the real world. And this is a place where students will need to research, they'll need to, use internet search or, find some other way to support why it's not just their opinion. Now we see here that each one of these examples has some kind of quantifiable, numerical or other quantifiable element in the real world. National Geographic is a known, famous magazine. This magazine, which we trust knows something about nature, and if it was voted as the best coral diving in the world, that's something for us to say, okay, it's not just Daniel's opinion. It's not just Sigalit's opinion. Same thing with always flying American Airlines, because they have the lowest price. Prove it to me. We understand why we should fly American Airlines, but now we need to understand why this is true. Prove to me that they really are always the cheapest. Because I'm saying always a pretty, heavy word. If I say right now, you should always drive at 3 o'clock in the morning, and one time there's construction, you're like, wait, that's not always anymore. But if I show that last month they had a deal where there was 50% off the flight to every location, you're like, wow, that's pretty serious. And it's all connected, because I'm saying always fly American Airlines because they have the lowest prices. Last month, they had 50% off to every location. Now, if we said always fly American Airlines because they're the safest, last month they had 50% off to every location, that wouldn't work. So it's very important that the statement, the example, and the explanation are complementary. And when you break it down to different parts, like we're going to do after the break, you'll see how sometimes the statement, the explanation work, but the example doesn't work. Or the statement, the explanation work, or statement, the example work, and the explanation is incorrect. You can also find the explanation, the example work for a different statement. So each one of these now has separate pieces that when they work together, always fly American Airlines, they have the lowest prices, and here's proof that they really have the lowest prices. The best flight deal you found was never 50% off to every location. Like, good luck taking that apart. Okay, so that's the example and the interrelatedness. We're now going to go on to conclusion. Who is able to read? Who would like to read next?
I can read.
Anne, excellent. So we're going to have Anne read to us the next slide. Go.
Conclusion. Repeat the statement. Why? You probably said a lot in your speech. By the end, the audience may forget your point. Always, always, always conclude by reminding the audience what you were talking about.
Wonderful. Let's see how that works. Anne, please read us the statements now with the conclusion. And remember, everyone, the conclusion is simply repeating the statement, but this time it's after an entire journey. All right, Anne, take us on a journey.
Okay, Australia is beautiful because of the coral reef. For example, National Geographic has the best coral diving in the world, and that's why Australia is beautiful. Always fly American Airlines because they have the lowest prices. For example, last month they had a 50% off deal to every location, and that's why you should always fly American Airlines. No one should possess nuclear weapons because if one goes off, the damage is unthinkable. For example,
hold it, pause 1 second. We're gonna have you read that again. So we see right now it's getting into like a bit of like, one after the other monotony. And I want you to read the last one dramatically, okay? Take your time, pause. Pretend you're trying to engage a room of like bored 16-year-olds, all right? Everyone else, channel that bored energy. We're angsty. We're like, all right, what are you gonna tell us now, teacher? Go.
No one should possess nuclear weapons. Because if one goes off, the damage is unthinkable. For example, after the Hiroshima bombing of 1945, along with the huge loss of life, thousands died in pain from dehydration, and the land was contaminated for decades. And that's why I can't read the rest here. I can't see the rest of the screen.
Repeat the statement. Repeat the statement. You got it.
I can't see it on the screen.
But what is the conclusion?
That no one should possess nuclear weapons.
Excellent. By the way, that was very cool with the save there. Thank you, Anne.
Welcome.
Actually, you're cut off from the final line, sort of cut the flow. That was really beautifully read and paused. So you see, it's like no one should possess nuclear weapons because if one goes off, the damage is unthinkable. After the 1945 Hiroshima bombing, thousands lost their lives in pain, dehydration. Their bodies, like their silhouettes were like flashed against the wall as they melted, and the land was contaminated and not something you could use for decades. And that's why no one should possess nuclear weapons. So this we can see here is the reason that the conclusion is so important. It's important to bring it back, to close the idea, and it really it has good bookends. You can definitely watch students floating off, and sometimes us also will float off all over the place without knowing how it's going to end. Sometimes after the example, you can bring a second example. In essay writing, by the way, there would be other elements added to these. And that's why in the end, you should always come back to the point with a conclusion. So I did there. And that's why you should always come back with a conclusion. Okay, so let's go over this together. These are the 4 parts of a strong argument. Okay, so let's review how to make a good argument. We'll say it together. Statement, explanation. Oh, say it with me. Good argument. How do we do it?
Okay.
I need to dip my finger in a glass of wine.
Example.
Together at statement, explanation, example,
and conclusion.
Great. So that is how we make an argument. Does anyone have any questions specifically on statement, explanation, example, conclusion?
Yes, Daniel, in your example, can you put, like a lot of students put, research has shown?
We're going to get to the specifics of example later, but the short answer is yes. Example must be from the real world.
Okay.
It's not just research has shown. They need to be specific about their research. Research is shown, as we can see in a New York Times op-ed published October 18th, 2022, So I found students many times, it's good you're bringing this up. They will sometimes research it, say research is shown, and drop the specifics of the research. The example is only good as an example if there is a real world factual support. That's what the example is. It's why is this true? If you say research is shown and don't cite the research, it's not research.
I got it.
If I say Australia is beautiful because of the coral reef, an important magazine somewhere said that, that's not specific. National Geographic is specific. The Atlantic is specific.
Got it.
Washington
Daniel,
Post.
may I ask another question about this?
Yes.
If the student brings...
Wait, I want questions on specifically on the, like on statement, explanation, example, conclusion, like for the.
Well, no, I'm just asking if a student tries to validate his argument by bringing a personal example from his own life, is it less valid or more valid or the same because it's specific? It's not a specific research from a certain university that is known, but something personal.
Okay, so that's an excellent question. Does a personal example qualify as the example? So I would say the following. For the purposes of debate class, when you're doing this with students, I would normally say personal examples are not good as examples because that takes away the research and life validation. Now, if this personal story is a general rule, for example, I study better after I sleep 8 hours, and because I go to bed at 3, that means I need to wake up at 11. All right, find some research that shows that 8 hours is better for sleep. The student should find what their rule is in the personal story, and if it's true, generally find an example to support its application. So that's what I would say for classroom, because your point is to have the students learn to cite sources to bring real world support for the examples. Okay, now I want to add a tiny sort of a caveat that there are places where a personal example can be relevant. I wouldn't say to do this in class, but I'm saying for us as educators to be aware, when can a personal story bring an example? When we are the relevant population and our example and rule can be extrapolated to others like us. For example, for us now doing this workshop on Zoom is easier because traffic at 3 p.m. is terrible. So I could say for me to drive from here to a classroom to meet all of you would probably take me at least 45 minutes. And there are 30 or 40 other people like that, who would feel the same way.
Actually, the examples the example I was referring to actually connected within the context of school, peer pressure, likes and dislikes about the kind of studies you would like to have. So it's something that is relevant to the students' own lives. And that's why I thought that the personal example did make sense.
Exactly. So for this kind of, I guess that's so excellent. So what you're saying, I'm saying that when the students are the relevant population body, personal experience connected with, oh, and there's many others like me, can technically work as good support for an example. However, I would say because the purpose is research and getting used to bringing real world examples, I would recommend initially you say, okay, it may be true about your life. Now go find some support for that, showing that, other teenagers go through similar things. Like help, clarify what the idea is and still to find support.
Daniel, I have another question.
All right, yes.
Regarding what you just spoke about. May we use, or may the students use a research that they do themselves, that they conduct themselves, a poll, a survey, something that they do themselves, and then they present it as an example?
So I would say it's the same answer that I gave to Sigalit.
Mm-hmm.
If their research that they did themselves brings support from some other element, for example, I researched sleep hours and I'm bringing support from, the London School of Economics sleep study of, 2022, then just mention the citing source. And that already is the example. If they conducted their own research, like I would say the same thing, like you can choose for your classroom where you feel you'd like to draw the line. Just understand that some students will say, I researched to avoid looking for a source to support their theory. So whenever I teach debating in the initial stages, I make sure that everyone brings an example that follows the criteria that I spoke about before, rather than their own personalized examples or even their own research. However, if they did write a research paper on it and they have sources, simply skip I wrote a research paper that cited the London School of Economics and say, the London School of Economics sleep study found that students need 8 hours of sleep. Wonderful. Okay.
One more question.
Yes.
A quick question. In the statement, is it acceptable to have two reasons, like the nuclear weapons? I forget what we said, because if one goes off, the damage is unthinkable and the loss is forever, something like that. Can there be an and, like it's delicious and healthy? Something
Okay. So I'll throw it back at you and say, in the argument, the burger is delicious and the burger is healthy. As two separate ones. The burger is delicious. The burger is healthy.
Arguments.
So it's two different arguments. But if it's similar, like I don't know, healthy and I don't know. You're right. Just keep two one.
There, you got it.
Yeah.
The word "and" is not your friend in an argument.
Okay.
And I do believe that if you were to look at the arguments, and the drill that we're going to do later, you'll see sometimes the word "and" pops up. But if you split the "and" into two separate ones, you'll find they're not the same. Words have different meanings. The example and explanation needed are probably going to be different. So no, you cannot have a statement with the word "and." That already turns it into two statements.
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right, everyone. It was a great debate class. Thank you all for tuning in. And we will